Hello everyone. Microsoft has released the Azure Cloud Shell new user interface. And in this video, I'll cover how the new user interface looks like in the lab, as well as explain the ephemeral sessions supported by Azure Cloud Shell. So let's start with what is ephemeral sessions. So ephemeral sessions are non-persistent sessions, which means once you will close the Azure Cloud Shell session, all the files which are uploaded or created will be removed from there. So now there are two ways in which you can use the Azure Cloud Shell. First one is using the storage account like the previous one, where the file share is mounted to the Azure Cloud Shell and it makes the Azure Cloud Shell persistent. And the another way is where you use the ephemeral sessions for the Azure Cloud Shell. And the container where the Azure Cloud Shell is spun up will have its own ephemeral storage. So once you will close the session, the container will be removed and all the files will be deleted. So the benefit of using the ephemeral session is for the quick connect because everything will be managed by the Microsoft in the backend and you can run the commands from the Azure Cloud Shell without even worrying about the Azure storage account. Most of the customers were worried about the cost as well as maintenance of the storage account because the classic version of the Azure Cloud Shell was dependent on the file share storage account. So now let me show you the new user interface in the lab. I am now logged into Azure portal. And using this Cloud Shell icon, you can open the Cloud Shell. And by default, now it's opening the new version. So as you can see, this Cloud Shell session will be ephemeral. So the files or the changes will not persist. And you would have noticed the toolbar here. The changes which Microsoft has done has brought a new text-based toolbar. So to compare, let me open the Cloud Shell in the classic version. Let's open another session for Azure. Click on this. And in the settings, you can go to the classic version. It's going to the classic version, but still it supports the ephemeral sessions now. So in the toolbar, you can see the toolbar was previously the icon based. You can switch between Bash and PowerShell. You can restart the Cloud Shell. You can open the documentation from here, the settings, upload and download the files, open a new session, open the editor, and web preview. However, if we'll go to the new session, now everything is a text based. You can easily understand while looking at it. So if you'll click here, it will switch to Bash. Restart means it'll remove this container and create a new session. And all the changes and the files which you have in your session will be removed. And in the manage file, you can upload and download the files. You can create a new session. And the new session means you can create the multiple sessions of the same container. Now it supports the IntelliSense also. So let me create a new file and see if I'll get the predictive text. New item type file. So it predicted the text and providing me the command where the item type is file, path is where I'm right now in my user home directory. And the name is testfile.txt and this is a text string in the value. So let's create this file ls and this file is created now. So if I close the session, this file go away. However, if we'll click on the new session, a new session will open here, but it will belong to the same container. So let's wait for the session to open. So if we'll run ls, you can still see the file which you have created in another session. That means you can create the multiple session using the new session with the same container and you can work parallelly on these. So if you want to open the file, you can open the file here and make the changes in the another session. So in the editor, if you want to edit the file, but that will move you to the previous version. And the web preview is if you want to open the certain port from the Cloud Shell. Like if you want to connect to any specific port using the command line, then you need to first open the port, which you can provide here, and then it will open the port. Like if you're running a local web server, then you will provide 80 and it'll open the port and you can browse it. And in the settings, the text size, font, theme, all this can be changed. And you can go back to the classic version also. In the help, you can use the different documentation. Now the important part is reset user settings. If you click on the reset user settings, it will reset your user settings. So if you click on reset, now it'll ask you, you want the Bash or you want the PowerShell. So if I'll choose Bash, now it's giving me two options. No storage account required or mount the storage account. If there is no storage account, but the problem with mounting the storage account is that anyone having the permission to view the storage account can access the storage account. So this is the subscription and apply. This will mount the storage account. This will first create the storage account, then mount it. And there is another option on which I'll make a separate video where you can create the Cloud Shell in the virtual network itself. So that means it will become part of your virtual network. And using the Cloud Shell, you can connect to those resources which have private access only from your network. So the public endpoint services like storage account, key vault, or any PaaS service can be accessed using the Cloud Shell. But if they have private endpoint enabled and they don't have public endpoint, in those cases, you need to deploy the Cloud Shell in the private virtual network. So for now, no storage account required. Select the subscription and apply. And this will open the Cloud Shell now. And if I'll quickly check whether the file which I have created is there or not, because we have reset everything, a new container is deployed. So the files which we have created or the changes which we have done are all gone. And one last thing which I want to show is the tools which are installed in the Cloud Shell are almost near to the latest version, which are managed by the Microsoft. If I'll run the AZ tools, if I'll check the AZ tools, so they should be of the version. Sorry, wrong command. 2.62. And the Python is 3.9.19, which is from the March 2024. So that means this new Cloud Shell interface now provides a better experience as compared to the previous one. So that's all for this video. I hope you liked it. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.